everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I am in D.C. I got here a little bit late. It was stormy, so we didn't go out to the Capitol yet, but tomorrow we're going to take a trip around. We're going to go dispel some of these FBI rumors. Yes. Apparently, the FBI is closed. No, it's not. It's not closed. They're not closing. But we're going to go to that building, and with me is Sarah Reynolds. Now, she used to be pretty big on the Periscope. That's kind of how I found you. I found you on Twitter, actually. You're still on Twitter. But unfortunately, they are no longer allowing you to live stream either with your regular account or your backup account. So before we get into that, Sarah, why don't you tell people who you are, how you got involved in politics, and how you became a social media influencer?
Okay, back in 2017, and actually I'd been on Twitter quite a long time, but I should say 2016, I was a Bernie fan. And I was a fan of Bernie, and then all the Hillary emails came out through WikiLeaks.
Yep.
And then I flipped to Trump, okay? Bernie endorsed Hillary Clinton. And Trump, the ultimate awesome Twitter troll, he tweeted that endorsing, Hillary Clinton is like Goldman Sachs endorsing Occupy Wall Street. So I was like, okay, you know what? I like this guy. Let me just check him out. Bernie's out of the running because Bernie endorsed Hillary. There's no way I can trust him ever again. So then all of a sudden, I watched some Trump rallies, and Trump was so cool. He was like, he literally said the word fair trade. I was like, does this man go to the co-op? Do he and Melania wear?
I don't think they go to the co-op. I don't think they've ever been to a co-op. I just want to let you know. But at the same time, look, when I was watching these things, right? I was more of a Rand Paul guy than anything, but of course Rand had run previously, had been demonized by the media. I was never into Ted Cruz, and Trump was saying things in those debates nobody else was saying. And one of the things he could say that no other candidate could say is, I've already donated to all you guys. You've already all done favors for me.
Yes.
And I thought that was like, well, that's a stark reality. That did happen. And that was kind of one of those things. I don't know that it made me believe in the hopium, but it did give me the feeling that this guy was different from your establishment politician, right?
100%. 100%. And when he pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was one of my huge goals, is to bring American jobs back from overseas to the United States, I was shocked. I thought, this guy is legitimate. He actually does care. He actually does care about the American worker. He's not full of shit. It's not a party line. Even though clearly I could see that Trump was using like a Jesse Ventura accent. He was using the language and the talk and the big hand movements, and he was using the simplified sentences, no complex arguments. He just wanted American jobs. And he was so sincere, and the hugging the flag was a little over the top for me. I will say, it was over the top.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, but you know what? When he said, what do you have to lose? I thought to myself, literally fucking nothing, because Bernie Sanders is out.
Well, when he said that to the black communities, I was like, well, you know what? Again, this is somebody who's being more direct than any other politician had. And, as I've talked about, there were wins. There was more in my paycheck, like he promised in the beginning. Yep. The Trans-Pacific Partnership was real. The whole didn't start new wars thing, I was, because he had talked some shit on Saudi Arabia, and then he cuts that $400 billion+ deal. But despite all that, and the fact that I don't love his attitude, and I never watched The Apprentice, I was never in that. He's still somebody who, in my lifetime, was probably the best president I ever had. And now, I lived in 79, so I guess, Jimmy Carter was around. I don't remember that. And maybe Jimmy Carter's a better person, but certainly wasn't a better president. If you look at Jimmy Carter and what he did, he allowed Zbigniew Brzezinski and the War Machine to take over in Afghanistan, really support the Mujahideen, bring up the Bin Laden network, and get into a hot war with Russia on the border. Jimmy Carter, I think he kind of got screwed with the Iran-Contra deal. I think he's the real deal as far as human beings. But as far as policy, Reagan didn't do what Trump did. Bill Clinton didn't do what Trump did. Obviously, Barack Obama, George Bush Jr., George Bush Sr., none of them did what Trump did. Now, did he believe too much in his establishment buddies, Mike Pompeo, Bill Barr, Mattis? Sure, but as you know, and YouTube, I'm not saying I have any evidence of election fraud. I feel like the man obviously won in a landslide and should be our president today.
Yes.
And look, whether or not he's pulling all the strings or making some decisions, I promise you, he made more decisions in his first week of office, his actual decisions,
Yes.
than Joe Biden will make actual decisions in his entire term, whether that ends next week or in the end of the 4 years, because Joe Biden doesn't fucking run anything.
Right.
He can't speak, Sarah.
Okay, we're watching a dementia patient slowly lose his mind. And you know what? Let me tell you what. In 2012, I actually campaigned for Obama. I knocked on doors in St. Paul, Minnesota. I knocked on doors because I was so afraid of Romney. I thought Romney was going to get elected and literally, like the next day, outlaw any birth control. Like, outlaw it. I literally thought that Romney was going to do that.
By the way, no Republican or Democrat will ever outlaw birth control. I assure you of that. It will never happen.
But I thought, but let me tell you what, because I believe, no, if Mike Pence or Romney were elected president tomorrow, they would. They would issue an executive order. And you know what?
I doubt it.
Okay, you know what Trump did? Because Trump is so fucking amazing. He saw that the Paris Climate Accord was basically subsidizing an American taxpayer subsidy for China. It was sending our money to China. And I'm a person that's pro clean water, clean air. You know, I always used to joke when I had my Progressive Patriot radio show, I used to joke that the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act are basically legislating how dirty, how polluted our water and air can act. Basically, they say that we can have a certain amount of fluoride in the water. And it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But Trump went in and he was like, look, I'll tell you what, you're not going to play lie game. We're not playing any sort of lie game today. We are not, the American taxpayer is not going to subsidize China so they can use coal and pollute the whole earth, but the United States can't. Give us a break. They're not a developing nation. They are a country just as developed as we are.
It's much more, actually. Let's be honest. There's 1.2 billion people here. And, you know, whereas Trump saw that as a subsidy of China, I see it more towards the move towards the global CO2 market that they've already put into place. The CO2 carbon exchange market, right? But of course, you're not going to make China beholden to that. Why? Because China's already got an infrastructure of a social credit score, of an authoritarian regime, of total surveillance society. So as long as they've implemented that on the people, they already know that the climate scam is just that. It's a scam. It's a mode of control. It's a mode of monetary operation. You slip that into the Western nations, okay, while you instate the same systems in China, and then you make it this, oh, United States versus China, or we're polluters and they're not, because that's the big joke, right? Joe Biden knows that China's polluting. Like, they all know. They all know. It's not like they don't know. But Bill Gates and all these guys have been invested in these carbon markets now for 20 plus years. But Al Gore was just the front man. That wasn't his idea. He wasn't running around talking about global warming because he gave a fuck about you. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He gives a fuck about a market that supports what? Us becoming slaves and serfs. Us being limited to how many cars we drive. Us being limited to how big our home is. Us being limited to what energy we can or can't use. You know, shutting down those coal plants. It's not that they hate coal. It's that they know coal is efficient and it's cheap. Like, let me explain something. It's not the carbon in coal that you should be worried about. It's the mercury runoff, if anything, in the water. You ever heard of that from fucking Joe Biden or Al Gore? Absolutely not. Because just like you said, it's not about clean air or clean water. It's about control over resources and markets. And quite frankly, they don't want us to have any, just like they don't have in China.
Right. And we don't need a social credit score. Like, that is the biggest bullshit scam that they've ever tried to inflict on any human population. And I tell you what, we have to start fighting it, and we have to start calling our members of Congress and saying, if you support this is the magic words. If you support this, I will vote for your opponent on election day. You have to give them a consequence. You have to call and write a regular snail mail letter is actually the most powerful thing you can send to a member of Congress, and all you have to do is say, I'm going to vote for your opponent in the next election if you support this legislation.
So, you know, I totally agree with you that, number one, email doesn't work as well. The phone calls, they just kind of laugh off it right now. They kind of check them off and a check mark, like, who's doing this? Okay. But the bottom line is, especially with what we saw in the last election, is that we have had compromised national elections and elections on a large scale in other places for some time now. Fractional voting should not be a thing, ever. That's not Like, one vote, one person. Voting machines by Diebold. They talk about Dominion. I've been talking about this since 2004. There's no reason we needed a voting machine. Guys, since we were caveman, we were able to do this. 1.
CNN.
2.
CNN reported in 2006. CNN reported that about fractional voting, and it is an absolute scam. There should be, in my opinion, there should only be paper ballots.
Thank you. Paper ballots with receipts and people counting them. We should be using technology to empower humanity instead of enslave them. And we have the technology now where we could really ensure our elections, but instead they've used that technology to obfuscate audits. We're seeing that Arizona audit right now. The numbers are tremendous, but you listen to Rachel Maddow, and she'll tell you, they're trying to flip the integrity of the election they already lost. The truth is, when we have hand audits and they're flipping not 1%, not 2%, not 5%, not 10%, which is unheard of, but over 15%, you better damn well understand it's not just one county in one state. So to me, I believe the more local, the better. You kind of got to be your own hero. She's absolutely right when she says, listen, a snail mail letter. But at the same time, some people like to call holding people accountable at their home or somewhere else they attend doxing. No, these are elected officials. Hold them accountable. Listen, I'm not calling for harm to any of these people, but back in the heyday when We Are Change was moving, nobody was safe. Robert Gibbs was getting pulled down. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, John Kerry, Joe Biden. It's in my film Fabled Enemies. All those people were confronted and asked real questions. And instead, we live in a society where people want to dunk on the other side. I got this chick in a pussy hat triggered, blah, blah. Does nothing. Does nothing. Go get someone who's an elected official and put them on the spot about the Fauci emails. Put them on the spot about the lockdowns. Put them on the spot about election integrity. And you're gonna have a whole new ballgame. Make them censor those things. Right? Because they will.
They will. They absolutely will. They won't hesitate to, because they don't want us to know shit about hydroxychloroquine. They don't want us to know about combining that with zinc. We could have actually treated all people.
I'll get kicked off of YouTube. I might have to censor that. I don't know. Listen, I'm serious. I hate to do it, but maybe we'll make this just a Rockfin exclusive. I don't know. But yeah, we can't talk about certain medications for this whole fiasco, and now they're talking about $3.5 billion for antivirals, okay? And, okay, now we're talking, we never talked about antivirals before this, right? Not at all. We didn't talk about repurposed drugs, and in an interview with Fox News last night or 2 nights ago, I think it was on the Judge, was it Perino? Is that who
No,
it
I didn't see it.
Well, that's the woman, right? The woman Judge show? Is that what?
It's.
I think. Don't quote me, but I think it's Perino. But it was her. Ron Wilson, who is the senator out of Wisconsin, and then Pierre Corey. And basically, Corey said that they're going to take a drug. Starts with an I. Can't talk about it here. They've already censored it, and they're just going to add something to it that doesn't do fuck all. They're going to patent it. And then they're going to say, look, we found this great drug, and they're going to charge you 10 to 15 times more.
Yes.
Because the drug I'm talking about, if you have insurance, $10 for 90 days. Let me repeat that. $10 for 90 days. You can't get a fucking a Big Mac and fries with a Coke for $10.
Right.
And if you don't have insurance, I think it's something like $30 or $40. You better believe, like you see with all medicine that all of a sudden has this magical patent on it, they're going to quadruple, make 10 times, 20 times the price. I mean, you look at what's happened with EpiPens. You look at what's happened with
insulin.
Insulin.
Yes.
Insulin, for Christ's sake, when we have more diabetics than ever. It's criminal what they've done.
It's absolutely criminal.
And we're seeing more and more of that censorship and people being okay with that. That's the crazy thing, Sarah.
Why are people... It's an American value to object to an invasion of privacy and to object to any censorship. And people are okay with people getting cut off from Periscope like I was. Mm-hmm. I can't Periscope anymore. People are okay with censorship, and they're okay with an invasion of privacy. Being asked if you've had a vaccine. It is none of your business. Any drugs I've ever been prescribed, any medical treatments I've ever had, that's information that's private between me and my doctor. None of your business. And people need to realize that they're opening a Pandora's box. What happens when your employer says, if you've ever had XYZ experiences or surgeries, I won't hire you. If you've ever been prescribed this drug, you can't work for me. And we're just opening up a Pandora's box. Having to show your actual vaccine card is so, it's such a Fourth Amendment right to privacy violation. Every American person should be literally up in arms, but at least protesting by calling their member of Congress and their 2 senators. Please do this. You just need to call them and say, absolutely not. We should not have any sort of vaccine passport. We should not have any sort of vaccine mandate. Any employer that requires you to get a drug that's an experimental drug should not be allowed
any
to
drug.
require
Forget
you.
about experimental or otherwise.
Yes.
No one is going to forcibly make me do anything.
Right.
I want to repeat that. Anything in the medical field. And a lot of you know that I've been talking about not only antidepressants and the antidepressants on top of the antidepressants, but I've been bringing up Ingrezza, which is this drug that stops the tardive dyskinesia, TD. So if you're taking one antidepressant and that's not enough, and then you're on another antidepressant, maybe a third, maybe a fourth, and all of a sudden you're doing great mentally, as they say, okay, but your face cringes up and your arm locks up like this and you have these involuntary motions. No, they don't want you off the antidepressants. They want you on another drug that side effect is still suicidal thoughts and actions and involuntary motions. Now, I thought Ingrezza was the only one. I'm in my hotel last night and there's another one. I think it's called Anecdole or something like shit like that. It starts with an A, but instead of a woman who's having trouble this time, now it's a black man in a factory that can't hold the box. He's got his box. Oh, his mental health's doing great, but all of a sudden his fucking arms go out of whack. We used to say, you know what? That drug shouldn't be on the market anymore. That's all. That's not helping. That's hurting people.
Right.
Not anymore. Let's take that one. And in 5 years, they'll have another drug on top of that one to stop your tardive dyskinesia side effects, which who knows what they're going to be. Like maybe your eyes flutter in the back of your head while you're driving and you can't see. Like,
Yeah.
like it can only get more absurd. I mean, look, especially during this time, mental health is a tough issue. And I'm not saying that all of these drugs in all cases might be bad. But when you are advertising something for profit, you have a motive to sell it to as many people as possible. That's not how medicine should work. Medicine should be reserved for those that need it and should be prescribed by a doctor to a patient. And that doctor should be the one that instructs that person on the type of drugs and what the side effects may be, not being barraged with it a dozen times while I watch the History Channel, The Food That Built America. Okay? And that's what you have. Like,
that's what you have.
I mean, there's just so much advertising. What do I see on advertising for adults now? Booze, gambling, and fucking antidepressant drugs. And that's pretty much it. Car commercials.
And here in DC, it's especially like cancer drugs and heart blood pressure drugs. Mm-hmm. Yes. But I will say, I am actually originally from Minnesota. And in Minnesota, you would see the antidepressant drugs ads all night long. Mm-hmm. But here in DC, I have the first time ever in my life that I would see an ad for whiskey. The first time ever in my life that I saw an ad for hard liquor on television. And I was like, oh, now you're speaking my language.
Well, I've run a bar, so I've been paying attention to those ads for some time. And I think that Matthew McConaughey had one of those. I remember George Clooney had his own. I think his was vodka. Diddy put out his vodka a while back.
Ryan Reynolds has aviation gin, and I will say it's fantastic.
Ciroc's not a terrible vodka either, P. Diddy. Diddy, you did it right on the vodka. But, look, that's one thing. Alcohol, all those things. But it is kind of telling that for adults, it's always something that's going to alter your state of mind, or alter your state of being, or it's going to be some kind of symbol of importance, right? It's going to be some status deal. It's a car. It's jewelry. It's not the day-to-day stuff anymore.
Right.
You barely see that. You don't see, oh, this is the best damn lawnmower anymore.
This is the best macaroni and cheese. When we were kids, it was macaroni and cheese. Like, literally, it was like, tell your mom you want Kraft.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, I still see some of that in, like, the kid kind of stuff, and every once in a while, I see the Oscar Mayer stuff making a comeback. By the way, Oscar Mayer, not great for you. Not great for you. No, hot dogs and bologna, probably not the best. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm off on that one too, but I doubt it. So it's just you're bombarded by this shit. Well, you know what? I should take that back, because the other thing that now is on television that you can't get away from are the boop boop commercials. I don't say the V word because God forbid we talk about that, but it's all I know. Believe me, the algorithms get me.
VV?
Well, the V, the
the
shots.
V.
I call it the boop boop. Okay, because it's a boop, and then a couple weeks later it's a boop again.
Yes.
It's all I see. Like I see this commercial now with these young people. And they're like, now 12 and up can get it. And it's like they're talking to their parents, but they're not. They're like, I'll never tell you how much I love you for protecting me against this, but I just want to let you know I do. And then it rolls through all these people, and it's like, man, if I don't get my kid this, my kid might not love me. Total propaganda. I mean, this is insanity. And look, I can't talk about side effects. I can't talk about theirs. I can't talk about anything regarding that on this platform.
You can Google it. You can Google theirs.
You can look it up. The thing is, the guys that were not live, and usually what I would do with this, if we were live, is we would talk about certain things, and then I'd stop it, and then we would go into Rockfin. So in other words, we bowl over, but because there's not a lot of upload speed, just like there wasn't at my other hotel, this is going to have to be a pre-record and then a premiere. So we kind of got to be careful.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about DC now, the militarization that we saw after January 6th. It does seem like things are getting better on the East Coast, guys. Things do seem almost back to normal. You know, we just had dinner.
Yep.
No masks at dinner.
No masks.
The waiters weren't wearing them. I still drove around the city a little bit. Did see some joggers out there.
But they didn't ask us if we were vaccinated at the restaurant, which is great.
Yeah, thank God. And I had a lot of similar experiences. In upstate New York, where I was the last couple days, which makes me feel good, guys. It makes me feel good because you guys know how fucking nuts this drove me, and how I had to leave my state and travel across the country and just kind of try to find somewhere where what's going on now was going on then. And that's not okay. You know, it's not okay that so many people are wondering whether or not their kids are going to be in masks next semester. It's not okay that people are feeling pressured to take the boop boop so they go to college. So they can go to college.
Insanity. They're so unsusceptible. Anybody 25 or younger has a less than 1% chance of...
We all have a less than 1% chance.
But they have a less... Okay, but 25 and younger have a less than 1% chance of fatality. Like almost zero.
So one of the things I can say, because we've played it here a million times, is that now it's August of last year, right? It might even be April of last year, that much longer. But let's say August, almost 12 months ago. The WHO admitted the overall global number of survival was 99.4%. That was global. And they actually said that it was probably higher than that because they couldn't see all cases. So that for across the board is 0.6. Now, if you're under 50, that 0.6% becomes even more minuscule.
Right, negligible.
And when they tell you about the boop boop, what do they tell you? They always tell you safe and effective in what? It keeps you most people out of hospitals or death. Guess what? The fucking vast majority of people were not going to the hospital or death either.
And there's some very, very real pre-existing conditions. If you are overweight, and we have to acknowledge this.
78% were obese. And that's CNBC. And we can say that.
Yes. And
I'm a little overweight. I got a little chub.
But not you have to be like 20% over your ideal weight.
Yes.
And you know what? Everybody should be out walking 30 minutes a day.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting exercise to my audience, Sarah?
I am. 30 minutes a day, just go for a walk.
Cuckoo.
And if you really want to make it amazing, put weights, ankle weights. And you walk with your ankle weights, and you will burn, I think it's like 15% more calories if you wear wrist weights and ankle weights. And I'm serious, you should do it because it's good for your heart. So 30 minutes a day, go for a walk.
Wait a minute. All this physical activity talk to bring your mental health up is just kind of wacky.
Your mental health and your physical health.
Well, that's the thing. It is true.
2 in 1.
It's 2 in 1. And anybody who tells you different, that somehow your physical health doesn't intertwine with your mental health, is totally lying to you. They're lying to you. Listen. Again, I'm soft right now. But when I'm in shape, I do feel better. You just feel more confident. You feel stronger. Your mental state, you have more energy. You're up more. There's just so much more to it. I do the show. We'd be doing, mixed martial mindset with Fitch. And obviously Fitch is a lifelong athlete, a walk-on Purdue, an ex-MMA champion, UFC superstar. But he's right. He's right. Yeah. He's like, look, take 20 minutes out of your life, do some bands, do some jumping jacks. You don't have to get crazy jacked. You know, you don't have to go get testosterone replacement. Set some goals and try to work towards them, because even if they're not physical goals, that's another thing that I found is extremely rewarding, Sarah, is you set a goal.
Yes.
You achieve that goal. The feeling of that accomplishment is something that can't really be replicated by something that's like a trinket or a physical thing.
No way.
Or even, there are some experiences that are great, but there's nothing that feels as good inside as accomplishing something that you set out to do. And you know what? You're going to fail sometimes.
Yep.
But that means when you do accomplish stuff, it feels even better.
Yes. And you know what? You can do a 4-minute workout. This is a 4-minute workout. You literally hold a plank for 1 minute, then a side plank for 1 minute, the other side plank for 1 minute, and jumping jacks for 1 minute. So that'll change your life right there. I'm just telling you, do it.
Sarah, we're almost up on a half an hour, and since I don't know how long this is going to upload, I think we're going to try to cut it at a half hour.
Okay.
What should people do right now in regards to their own communities? Because, again, we talk about a lot of national issues, but the bottom line is this COVID thing hit everybody, right? So, you talked about mailing these people out. We've talked about social media. What do you think are some of the other ways that we can kind of not only overcome the censorship and the shaming, but get back to being neighbors that if you're a conservative, you can still talk to a liberal.
Yes.
If you're an independent, you can talk to both. You don't have to hate your neighbor because they voted for somebody.
Yes.
So how do we get back to that?
I tell you what, when I walk down the street in DC, I make eye contact with every single person that I see, and I smile at them and I say hi.
You are smiling.
And I say hi. But I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you voted for Biden. I still want you to have a great life. So I smile at every single person. When I'm in the grocery store, hello, how are you doing? I wished a guy Happy Father's Day on Sunday when I was at Giant. Just say hello to people. This is literally, you know what my mom used to say, if you want world peace, it starts with your neighbor. So if you say hi to them and ask them their name. Hi, I'm Sarah. This is my dog Lily. And they say, I'm Jim. This is my dog Jack. You shake hands and you go, nice to meet you. And I tell you what, I will get my neighbors. I get their email address and I go, guess what? I'm having a Halloween party. You're invited. And I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you voted for Biden or Hillary. We need world peace starts at home. And then the other thing is, of course, I would say by state, we need to organize protests at our capitals. So if you're in Minnesota,
totally
St. Paul.
agree.
If you're in Wisconsin, Madison. You need to get all your people in front of the state house, and you need all of your neighbors to get there and say, totally peacefully protest with big signs that say no vaccine mandate and no mask mandate. Because we're done. We're done with the pandemic. And we need to go forward and take action to protect the most endangered people. That's the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions. Because everybody else, their statistical probability of having death as a reaction to COVID is slim to none. So your chances are better of getting hit by lightning twice.
And you know what? She's right. And a lot of you guys know that one of the things that I was talking about while these lockdowns were still occurring and then pre-January was storming local capitals and basically doing sit-ins and saying, listen, we don't need any of this. We want to be back to March 2020. And if you've been watching, guys, you know that I went down to the Scott County Board with Pat Militich and my friend Matt, and Matt spoke to them, and we gave them a several-page declaration that this will never happen again in our county and what we expect. And guys, when I go home, I'm going back. And there's not going to be 3 of us. There's going to be 13.
Yes.
And if they don't do anything when there's 13, there's going to be 26. And if they don't do anything when there's 26, there's going to be 200. And you just got to keep recruiting people and pushing back locally. And by the way, Matt, if you're watching this, I totally haven't texted you back, but you texted me while I was on the road to DC, and I will do that. I appreciate you making that Rockfin account. And that's why you guys got to make the Rockfin account. I know I haven't posted much over there, but remember, there's a ton of stuff that you won't find over on YouTube, and I'm not constantly censoring my guests over there because I don't like self-censorship either, but at the same time, I've got to bring the people in that are watching the cat videos because I'm not here to speak to the choir. And I think that's the biggest and most important thing. Don't direct your voice to an audience because you think you're going to get clout or social media scores or views. Be true to the issues, be true to yourself, and reach out to others with differences of opinion, and that's how we're going to be the the most effective, Sarah.
Yes. And you know what? If you had 10 seconds to just tweet at Jack and Twitter support to say, please reactivate Sarah Reynolds' Periscope account, I would greatly appreciate that, because they can do it. They can do it overnight.
You hear that, Burmese Brigade? Sarah Reynolds. Follow her on Twitter. That's Sarah with an H, Reynolds, correct?
Well, and there's 2 underscores in between Sarah and Reynolds.
Okay, but I follow her, so if you type it in and you see who I follow, you'll be able to follow her as well. I'm sure she's going to retweet this out. Guys, I love you. I know I haven't put a lot of stuff while I'm out on the road, but hopefully the next couple days we're going to do some cool stuff, and I will also get some major footage for stuff later on. Sarah, thanks for joining me and having me.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, we'll see you on the flip side.